Hello and welcome to Geek Speak. I'm one of your hosts, Chris.
And I'm Jonathan.
And let's jump straight into our topics for today. Disney has announced that they are in the early stages of pre-production of a reboot/sequel to the 1991 cult movie adaptation of The Rocketeer, which this version will be set a few years after the original Rocketeer, roughly 6 years I believe, and will feature a black woman who is a mechanic putting on the iconic jetpack and helmet to stop a corrupt scientist from stealing jetpack technology and possibly causing a major changing point in the Cold War. Now, I get a lot of people probably haven't seen The Rocketeer. Personally, I watched this in my youth and I thought it was an absolutely brilliant, if almost criminally underrated movie.
It's okay. It was alright.
It was an interesting movie. I'm really kind of interested to see this new take on it. I mean, part of the reason I did this was because it's a very unlikely hero. Like, the first one was an unlikely hero. He was a test pilot who just randomly found the jetpack. But this one is like 1950s America and a black woman
That could be interesting.
being a hero character.
Do you think it'll make Rocketeer more well known? Or?
I think it's possible. I just have to kind of find a way to avoid it looking like it's just steampunk sci-fi, because that 50s era, it is very brass and iron, and a lot of like basic tech, and then you've got a jetpack. It's tricky.
Yeah, should be good.
Yeah.
So a person online's this week. One of my stories is that a person online has leaked some footage of No Man's Sky, which is coming out quite soon.
It's due out on the 10th of August.
So there's about half an hour of gameplay. It was posted on YouTube and quickly removed.
Yeah, probably
It was
DMCA.
He was quite banned from YouTube after it was discovered. I think it was posted on a few other sites as well. Reddit, I think.
Possibly Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit. It was posted
This kind
on.
of thing, it might be on Vimeo as well.
But yeah, they've been removed, and there's also some talk that he actually removed some because he didn't want to spoil it for other people, which is nice. But there's definitely some source images around that you can find if you're absolutely busting to have a look at what the game's going to look like.
Yeah, from the few images I've seen, it doesn't look too much different from what we saw in the trailers, and really what a lot of people are picking this game up for isn't it isn't because it's like action,
Graphics to the extreme.
massive graphics. Yeah,
It's going to be well story driven.
it's more because it's freeform. The whole game is basically exploration, and the closest anybody's gotten to that previously has been something like
Spore
or I don't know, maybe
Probably
Far Cry.
Yeah.
This is taking the whole concept of a gaming sandbox and basically going, oh, well, yeah, here's your sandbox, only this particular sandbox happens to be the Milky Way. And it's all playable. It's not like, oh, there's 5 or 6 planets that you can go to, like something like Star Wars The Old Republic. This is, oh, you can go to every star system. It'll take you the rest of your life, and you'd still only do a fraction of it, but you could theoretically go to every single individual star in that galaxy, and they would all exist in real time.
That sounds awesome. Wonder if it's going to be similar to the likes of Galciv or anything like that, with the... Obviously not
Possibly,
quite...
yeah. I mean, Galciv isn't a RTS, but...
Yeah, not quite the same format, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
This,
Because that's the only open world Star Explorer I can really think of.
I'd say the closest thing to this would probably be Eve, just
Yeah.
not as heavily populated because it's such a much larger area than even Eve has access to.
Wonder if the servers can handle. Like, that's a lot of content.
Yeah, it is, and like
Will there
this
be
isn't
lag?
pre-programmed stuff. This is all procedurally generated, so
Will it be lag?
well, we'll just have to see. Hopefully they know how many pre-orders they've gotten, so they'll be able to build servers and get the servers up and running big enough that they won't crash day one like we've seen so many titles do.
Yeah. It'd be good if they can get that happening properly.
Yeah. Now, another bit of news that, even though it's a bit away, has a lot of people like me, on one hand going yay, and on the other hand going is that HBO's new programming chief, Mr. Casey Bloys, has officially confirmed that Game of Thrones will be ending after its 8th season. There have been rumours floating around for a number of years about this, but this is the first time that anybody from HBO has gone on record as saying, yes, this is when it will end.
It's a very long-running series for what it's about, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just finished its 6th season about a month ago, a bit over a month ago.
Yeah.
And its 7th season is due out around the end of this year, early next year, and then the 8th season about a year after that. So we've still got 2 good seasons of the show, and if you're up to date with it, it's looking to get very intense, which is possibly why they're not planning on doing a 9th or 10th season, because if they wrap up the events of this season in the next 2, there's not going to be much place left to go.
You don't want to keep a good season like that running for too long.
Yeah, and I mean,
You want to wrap them up early.
a lot of fans have been talking about the fact that it was only a 6-episode season, but the simple fact is, a lot happened in those 6 episodes, and just the production costs to keep it looking as good as it is would be astronomical. What they're doing for a 6-episode season would probably cost most other shows at least 12 to 20 episodes.
That's insane.
I mean, excepting of course for maybe the last season of Friends, where the cast members were getting something like 20 million an episode.
Yeah. And for a series like that, you don't want to drag them out too long.
Yeah. I mean, there have been talks of a spin-off, but at the moment, with production ramping up for a very intense schedule for the upcoming 7th season, the 2 showrunners are really in no position to be thinking about an offshoot. They've got their hands full with the show that they're already making.
Something that bugs me is TV shows that just go for too long.
Yeah.
They don't need to do a season, they just do it. And it's like, you should have ended it back here. Why am I still watching this?
It's kind of the dichotomy of TV that you'll get that really popular show, or the show that got really high ratings in its first season, and the studio will immediately go, okay, that's brilliant, we'll order another 4 seasons straight away. And the second season onward are absolute rubbish. And then you'll get the show that, like, the first few episodes might not have great ratings, and so the studio goes, okay, now we're just not going to bother with a second season, we're just going to say it now. And then it gets a massive fan upswing in popularity, whether it be on something like the old TiVo systems, or like a streaming service like Netflix, where they're not watching it at the time of broadcast, but you're getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people watching that show that isn't reflected in the ratings.
And it's happened everywhere across the board with TV series as well. In all genres I've seen, there's always been that one where the execs just want more to make more money, but they don't realise that you should stop some things.
Yeah.
You should stop some things.
This is something that we can say has been going on for decades. We could sit here talking about it until we're blue in the face, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you all know what we're talking about. And
Sword Art Online.
oh yeah, a bit, but I'm also talking stuff like
Heroes did it a little
Heroes. The quality really went downhill on that, but then you look at the opposite side and you've got stuff like Firefly, which had 1 season, which was is still insanely popular.
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next story we've got is Pokemon Go update that's coming out. As you've probably heard in the press these days, Pokemon Go has become quite popular with everyone, but also quite unpopular for the fact that certain locations shouldn't have certain gyms or stops.
In the
things
past,
like that.
there have been stories in the media that we haven't covered before that have been like in the Holocaust Museum in America. That was a Pokestop. It got a sudden upsurge of people who were only there to play Pokemon, and
in people's shops.
Yeah, in people's shops.
In people's houses.
In houses, in backyards. There was one guy whose house was marked as a gym because it was a former church that he purchased and renovated.
That was selling lemonade. That's
Yeah,
what I heard. I don't know if it's true.
There were rumours about that his kids were selling lemonade to all of the Pokemon players.
Good on him.
But
yeah, they're releasing an update for Pokemon Go, which should get rid of some of the irrelevant places for the stops and gyms, which will be good because there's been countless trespassers, and you know, there was a guy who trespassed on government property, which was a high-end case. It's been hushed.
Yeah, there's been basically since week 1 when Pokemon Go came out, there have been stories about a woman who jumped a fence to get closer to a river and then found a dead body floating in the river because she was playing Pokemon Go. People who have been shot at. One guy who got stabbed while playing it.
Yeah, it's been a countless problem.
There's as much good as it has been getting people with social anxiety disorders, or just people who normally wouldn't be very social and out there, getting them out onto the street, getting exercise, interacting with other people. It's also been causing a lot of problems from either people taking advantage of it or from people who are just stupid and doing the wrong thing, like trespassing on government property.
Yeah, which actually comes to my next point. Does Pokemon Go have a future after such the bad press?
I think it does, simply because, well, as we've seen, the Pokemon Go community is so rabid for anything to do with this game. I mean, it's been out for less than a month now, and it's already hit the highest, the most downloaded app in iTunes history. And, I mean, a few weeks ago it caused Nintendo's stocks to jump a massive amount before Nintendo actually came out and told people, look, we only own a small share of this because we own a share in the Pokemon Company and we own a small share in Niantic, but we don't actually own the Pokemon Company or Niantic, so most of the revenue from this is not going to us.
Funny you say that, because Nintendo reported a loss just gone for the last quarter.
Yeah, they
6 or 7 million, I think.
They went back down recently, and
it's not been good for them. The last quarter, anyway.
Yeah, I've got to kind of question Nintendo's plans for the future at the moment, but I won't go into that here.
It'll be sad if they go.
I don't think they'll go. They've got too many exclusive properties, but I definitely think they need to reassess their direction.
Yeah.
But like I said, I could
go
talk about that for a lot more, and we don't really want to go as long as
last episode, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Alright, so
okay,
the last one.
That'd be our recommendations.
Oh, okay.
I actually haven't been watching that much, so I'll go back and I'll recommend an old favourite. Probably number 2 on my all-time favourite anime list, which would be the original series of Tenchi Muyo, often called Ryo Oki, but it isn't. Tenchi Muyo Ryo Oki was actually the sequel series to it. This came out in the early 90s, I believe, and it focuses on a boy named Tenchi who, thanks to a bit of curiosity, releases a sealed demon from his family's shrine and ends up learning that she is in fact not a demon, she is an alien, and so is his lineage.
So he's an alien.
So he's part alien. It's quite a good series. It's only about 12 episodes, and I will caution that it does have adult themes and frontal nudity, so it is not for minors, but it's still quite a good series. I've watched it a few times and it's just brilliant.
Well, my recommendation for this week is Death Note. I'm gonna pull the old. It's a classic for me. I think it's up there. It's definitely worth a watch. Focuses around the whole should people be put to death. Well, that sort of thing. You know. Should we have the death penalty virtually?
Yeah, and it's got a lot about one guy taking the law into his own hands.
Yeah. Though. Yeah, it's about this guy. He takes the law into his own hands. He pretty much has the power to kill anybody.
Yeah, because he finds the title a Death Note, and with it, it has the ability. All he needs is to know a person's face and their name, and he can write it in the Death Note, and they die. He can even put extra details like how they die and at what time. But it's really interesting because it starts out like, you know, he's really noble, but, you know, the character progression, I've always enjoyed that, so it's definitely worth the watch. Yeah, it's very much a case study in the old saying that power corrupts.
Yeah.
And
it's a good psychological
it really does.
So...
Yeah, as usual, if you have any comments, you want to have a chat to us, tell us anything we might have missed, or just generally complain at us about something, we really don't mind that much. Anything you want to say, comments down below or in our Facebook, which will also be linked in the description below.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.